Hello, it's good to see you. This is not the typical kind of video I make for this channel. If you've never been here before, this channel is typically kind of informal vlog type stuff. But this thought came to my mind the other day, and I can't stop thinking about it. And I kept thinking, you should make a video about it. You should talk about that. So I decided to do that today. Have you ever been through something that was really bad, and maybe it was something that lasted a long time? That's my cat. I don't have a tail. It's my cat, Pumpkin. Have you ever been through something that was really bad and it maybe lasted a while, and then when it was finally over, of course you're very happy that it's over, whatever it was, but then every now and then on into the future after it's over, is it like your mind kind of reminds you every now and then and says, hey, do you remember that thing? Do you remember when you had to deal with this and how bad that was? You remember? Isn't it nice that that's over? And just for a moment, you're just grateful that you don't have to deal with whatever it is anymore. Maybe you saw something or remembered something that reminded you of it. Just, oh, I'm so glad I don't have to deal with that anymore. I had a moment like that a few days ago, and it reminded me of a person that I used to have to deal with, and I had to deal with this person for quite a few years. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about my own situation, simply because, I'm just not at a point where I'm super comfortable discussing everything about it, but I dealt with what I would consider to be a toxic person for many years. And this person, fortunately, is no longer a part of my life. And something just made me think of them a couple days ago. And I just thought, I am so glad that I don't have to deal with this person anymore. I'll never have to deal with this person ever again. And I don't think I will ever stop being grateful and happy that this person is not a part of my life anymore. But when I was dealing with this person, it was horrible, and it went on for years, over 10 years, that I had to deal with this person on a regular basis. And I am not an expert. I am not a professional. None of this is considered to be medical advice or anything to replace it's not meant to take the place of a medical professional, any sort of healthcare professional, or a mental health professional. It's not. It's just for entertainment purposes only. As I say on this channel all the time, I'm just a goober on the internet. Just consider it. Look at it like I'm just a friend talking to another friend. I'm just talking to you as a friend right now. And I wanted to share some things that I had to learn the hard way. Maybe it will help you in some way so you won't have to learn it the hard way like I did. Because it took me way too long to learn this stuff. My opinion of the person in my life is that this person is a narcissist. I'm not diagnosing anyone. I'm not trying to say anything in a professional capacity about anyone. My opinion, though, after learning about narcissistic personality disorder, is that the person that I had to deal with was a narcissist. I still believe that. When I read and look at the characteristics of a narcissist, I read through and I just said out loud, it's like they know this person. It's like they met this person and they're describing this person. Yep. That textbook example of what you're describing here. And once I started to learn about narcissistic personality disorder, everything about this person suddenly made sense. And it was an amazing epiphany for me. It was a moment of clarity, and it was it was like a relief, because I thought, thank goodness, maybe now I can finally start to understand what I'm dealing with here. Now, I know there's a lot of information out there about narcissism on the internet now, and I'm glad that there is. I'm glad that more people are learning about it. It's great. I think sometimes people overuse the term, but again, I'm not a professional. I can't say for sure. Sometimes I think people are labeled as narcissists when they're not. And sometimes if you're dealing with a narcissist, they'll call you a narcissist. So sometimes, and the terms like gaslighting, love bombing, they can be used where they maybe don't really apply. But be that as it may, I'm glad people are talking about it and getting information out there, whether they're a professional or not. I think if you've had to deal with one of these people, you should talk about it. You should have a chance to talk about it. And again, it's not medical advice. I'm just a friend talking to another friend. I'm a goober on the internet. We're all goobers on the internet here. You know, don't base any major life decisions on anything I say because I'm a goober on the internet. I will say, though, I have a bachelor's in psychology. Never once in any of my classes did we even discuss for a moment narcissistic personality disorder. I never learned anything about it. I didn't know anything about it. For me, you know, if you were to describe someone, before I learned so much about it, if you were to describe someone to me as a narcissist, I would think you meant somebody who sat, you know, gazing at themselves in the mirror all day, like somebody who's really full of themselves and very vain. See, I thought that's what a narcissist was, just somebody who was just really stuck on themselves. And there wasn't really much more to it than that they were just very vain. But that's not really it. In fact, some narcissists are like the opposite of that. The person in my life, I would not describe that way at all. In fact, the person I dealt with, let's give this person a name so I don't have to keep saying the person I dealt with. We'll call them John. We'll just say this person's name John. That John is not the kind of person I would describe as someone who gazed in the mirror all day. And if anything, John often described himself as ugly. And, you know, he didn't brag about the way he looked at all. I mean, I'd say he was average looking. You know, he wasn't always in front of the mirror primping, and, you know, he didn't worry about what his clothes looked like or anything like. He wasn't about outward appearances, really. And to meet him, you wouldn't think he was any kind of a narcissist. You know, and I think that's what throws a lot of people off. You picture in your mind a grandiose narcissist, one that is big and showy and everything has to be the best and they're just amazing and they brag about themselves all the time, and you almost expect them to have like their own theme music, but a lot of narcissists, I'd say most narcissists are not like that. Not all, but I would say most of them aren't. John, if you were to meet him, you wouldn't think he was even capable of being narcissistic in any way. He was very kind of quiet, soft-spoken. He had sort of this aw shucks personality. Almost comes across as shy. I would have never thought anything, you know, he was capable of being anything other than just a really sweet guy, you know. Usually, though, when you meet them, what you're meeting is not really them. It's the mask that they hold up. Have you ever dealt with someone, and this is what I kept running through in my mind before I really understood narcissism, dealing with this one person, it's like beating your head against a wall. Like you're getting nowhere. You are trying and trying, and you are getting nowhere with them. And you always feel like you're not good enough. Everything you do is not quite right. You can't make them happy. And also, what I noticed was the way he acted around other people was very different after we had been in a relationship for a while. When we were alone, he was like he was a different person. And the people who didn't know him in that way wouldn't have recognized him. He was very different. Now, when he was around other people, you know, he again had that sort of aw shucks personality. You know, he was funny, charming, quiet. You know, just you wouldn't think he was capable of anything mean, or you wouldn't even think he could do anything mean to anyone. Wouldn't hurt a fly, you know. That's the mask. That's the false face that they put out there for the world. They're acting. It's acting. They've probably been doing it their whole lives. That's what led me to start searching online when I'd been dealing with this person for a number of years. I started just doing Google searches. This was probably 10 years ago. I started to do Google searches, can't make this person happy, can't talk to this person. I didn't even know what to search for, really. But then I started to see stuff pop up about narcissistic personality disorder, NPD. And I started to read about it, and it was when I started to read about it that it really opened my eyes, and it started to make sense. I thought, because too, one thing I could never figure this person out. Like, their behavior makes no sense. Whenever we would go to a party or a family get-together, or we would go on vacation, just even if we were just at home for the weekend, it's almost like John can only be happy for so long, and then he couldn't take it anymore, and he would just blow up and ruin whatever was going on, and ruin it. And we were with John's immediate family. I remember this. This was at Easter. This was years ago. It was at Easter time. And his kids from a previous marriage were there. And, the kids were out doing a little Easter egg hunt in the backyard, and everybody was having a good time and doing a little cookout. And it was a beautiful day, and everybody was having a good time. Now, usually when John would go to these events, he'd be kind of quiet. He would communicate, like he would talk to people, but it's almost like you could just sort of see that he was kind of tense. Like, it's like he just couldn't really relax, although he was trying to look relaxed. Like, he's really not, though. And then one of the kids said something kind of snarky to his sister. It was no big deal. It was objectively no big deal. And John lost it. He exploded. He started screaming, and he was screaming at the kids to go get in the car. We were leaving. Just, oh my God. And his mom, so he's packing the kids in the car, like, well, I guess we're leaving. And his mom came up to me while he was doing that, and she said, have you ever noticed that he can only allow people to have a good time for so long, and then he has to stop it? Have you noticed how he does that? So she had seen it before, and I didn't really answer. I was just kind of like, well, maybe, sometimes he gets headaches, and I would just try to defend him, try to make excuses for him. Well, maybe he's not feeling well, and maybe that just set him off. And anyway, I guess we're going, so thanks. Sorry we're going to miss the cookout, but I think we have to go. But thank you for having us over. And she just like, sure, yeah. Do you notice that about the person? Like, they can't, unless it is something. Now, if it was something centered around John, that was somehow kind of different. But even then, he could kind of have a meltdown. It's almost like watching a child. It's almost like watching a spoiled child. Truly, if the focus is not all on them the way they want it to be, they just have a meltdown. Because I think narcissists have arrested development. And there are a lot of videos online that you can look up about the evolution of a narcissist. Is it nature? Is it nurture? Personally, I think it's a little bit of both. And I think there are definitely different types of narcissism. The grandiose, there's covert, malignant, neglectful. There's a bunch of different types, and not every narcissist is going to look the same. And I think that is what throws people off, because you're expecting a certain look before you would even think this person was a narcissist. But narcissists can look all different kinds of ways. They can act all different kinds of ways. But that was another thing that I Googled was, can't stand to see people have fun at parties. Like, how do I Google that? How do I put that in a Google and come up with anything? But it kept coming up, NPD, NPD, NPD. And I'm going, okay, I think Google's trying to tell me something. So I started reading about narcissistic personality disorder. At that time, there weren't a lot of YouTube videos about it. There's a bunch now. I would recommend Dr. Ramani, Ramani. She's wonderful. Dr. C, I forget his name, Dr. Clark, I think. That might be right. But there are tons of YouTubers who talk about narcissism. I think Dr. Ramani is probably my favorite because she covers a huge range of topics about narcissism. Now, if you're interested in learning about narcissism within a family structure, there's a great guy for that. Jerry Wise is his name, Wise, and mostly all he talks about is narcissism within a family unit. It's not so much about significant others, bosses, friends. It's mostly about narcissism within the immediate family, and he has some fantastic videos on that. And if you've ever, if you had to grow up around a narcissist, I am so sorry. And if looking back you realize that, your childhood was not normal, I'm sorry that you had to go through that. I do think people who grew up around a narcissist are vulnerable as adults to end up in a relationship with a narcissist. And it's unfortunately, the cycle just kind of perpetuates itself. You may have children that are narcissists. You may end up being a narcissist yourself. And there are YouTubers who are diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder who make videos about being a narcissist. Those are interesting too. I cannot think. There are a couple of narcissists that make videos, and I'm sorry I can't think of their names now. But if you just look around on YouTube, you could probably find them. Really interesting to hear about narcissism from the point of view of someone who has it. But the tips I want to give you sound very simple, but I'm telling you all this to maybe help the tips make more sense. And I also want to say one thing before I go any further. Now, again, this is just my opinion based on what I went through. I want to say this to you. If you are in a relationship with a narcissist, or you have a family member, a friend, a boss, coworker, whatever it is, if you have a narcissist in your life, you cannot change them. You cannot fix them, because what is wrong with them, I believe, is not fixable. I think it is a core wound inside of them that they've had since they were very young. I don't think it's fixable. I really don't. You can't fix it. I don't think anybody can fix it. You will never do enough. You will never be enough to make them happy. They may seem happy for a little bit, but do you notice how their happiness doesn't really last? And they just always seem kind of irritable and just kind of unsatisfied with life in general. Like they can't be happy for long. Their happiness is very fleeting. And do you feel like they expect a lot of you, more than anyone else in your life? Do you feel like being around them is hard and stressful, but it's in a way that you can't really describe? You can't quite put your finger on it, but when you're around them, you're kind of stressed. Yeah, I'm very familiar with that feeling. You have to walk on eggshells around them. You have to kind of handle them very delicately, like an explosive. Yeah. You shouldn't have to live that way. You deserve better. And this person is not going to change. If anything, over time, they're probably just going to get worse. Narcissists in general don't seem to get nicer as they get older. They're the ones who end up in nursing homes and no one visits them, and they're always yelling at everybody, and they're just mad and mean. I think those are just old narcissists. And maybe not all of them, but narcissists get old too, just like everybody else. And when they no longer feel that they can push anybody around and they lose all that power, that's hard for them to cope with. They don't deal with it very well. They need to feel like they can lord it over somebody. And I feel sorry for anyone who has to take care of people like that. But if you are dealing with a person like that, you can't fix them. You can't. And you will waste so much time, so much energy, money, resources, your health. You will ruin your health trying to live with and satisfy a narcissist. You can end up with long-term health consequences. If you talk to anyone, like say somebody's been married to a narcissist for a long time, they probably have some health problems, autoimmune stuff, all kind, sleep disorders, anxiety disorders, depression. Now that may not necessarily be because they have to live with the narcissist, but I'm sure it doesn't help. Whatever's going on with you is going to be worse if you have to live with somebody that you have to tiptoe around and be very careful what you say to them all the time because you don't want to set them off. That's not good for you. It's not healthy. And it's not going to work. Everything you're trying to do to fix this person, it's ultimately not going to work. They will discard you, or you will have to just escape. And in my experience, if you're in a relationship with a narcissist, you don't leave, you escape. You have to escape. You can't just leave these people because their fragile ego can't take it. And they will punish you as long as possible. They will do everything they can to punish you. And with John, that was the case. John told me more than once, if you're ever stupid enough to leave me, I will make damn sure you regret it. And I didn't know what he meant by that. And I did ask him once, what do you mean when you say that? He said, you'll find out. And he went on to do everything within his power. For over 10 years after the relationship was over, he did everything in his power to make my life as hard and inconvenient and expensive and stressful as he could. Everything he could do, he did. Even if it hurt him financially, he would do it. He punished me for over 10 years after the relationship ended because the way he saw it, I didn't have a right to end the relationship. He said, I will decide when this relationship is over, not you. And I decided that things would be better if John and I were just no longer together. And I've never regretted it. It was the best thing I ever did. And that's why every now and then I would think of something and think, isn't it nice that you don't have to deal with that anymore? You can enjoy your vacations and holidays. You can look forward to going home. I don't dread going home anymore. Do you dread going home? Have you ever been in a situation where you would rather be at work than to go home? So the thing that was my biggest problem when dealing with John was I could make no sense of anything that he did. I couldn't make heads or tails of it. I didn't understand. And again, it's like you're beating your head against a wall. You're trying to communicate and you're just getting nowhere. It doesn't do any good. And while we were together, we were in therapy twice. There were 2 different periods of time where we went to see a therapist, 2 different therapists. And I'm not criticizing people in the therapy profession. I'm not. But from my experience, a lot of them, not all, but a lot of them seem to think that all they have to do is say one thing and it will fix your problem. And I think a lot of therapists don't understand narcissism. Maybe now more so that there seems to be more of an awareness now. So maybe it's getting better. Honestly, I don't know. But we went to see these therapists. And one time it was court ordered because we were involved in a child protective services thing and it was a whole big mess. And I'm not going to get into that, but we had to go see a therapist because it was court ordered. And both therapists seemed to think that our problem was communication. And that is the magic word that the therapists love to throw out there as just a cure-all for everything. You just need to work on your communication. Yeah. You are not communicating effectively with John. So you need to learn to communicate with him better. He is not understanding you. And I'm thinking, how can I better communicate that I don't like it when you scream at me because you didn't like the way I said hello when I answered the phone when you called me at work earlier? How do I communicate that better? I don't like it when somebody calls the house and it's a wrong number and it happens to be a man, and then you keep me up all night screaming at me because you think I'm cheating on you. How do I communicate that with him? How do I? And so I asked both therapists, okay, can you give me some examples of how I can communicate with John? And all John got was, well, you just need to learn to listen to her. You're not, listen. You have to listen when she communicates. Once she learns how to communicate better, you need to listen to what she says. So I'd ask the therapist, well, what exactly, can you give me some examples of how I can communicate? Okay, here is the thing. So John does a thing you don't like. When you do this, I feel this. When you leave a bunch of dirty dishes in the sink, I feel angry. I'm thinking, yeah, that's going to go over really well. And I couldn't say it because he was sitting right there and I had to ride home with him. And I thought, I am not going to say anything sitting here with her that might embarrass him or make him angry, because going home, I will hear about it and I will hear about it all night. I'm not saying a thing about how I really feel. And I went through that with both therapists. But that was their answer. Communication. You just need to learn to communicate. Here's the problem with that. Narcissists are not normal people. You cannot deal with them the way you deal with a normal person. It will not work. If anything, it will have the opposite effect of what you're trying to do. We're used to dealing with normal people. And with normal people, you can communicate. You can sit down and talk with them without shouting, without anger, without insults and curse words. You can explain things and have them understand. For most people, if you come to them and you say, look, I have a problem that I feel like we need to talk, we need to discuss this issue. And most people are willing to listen. And I would feel bad. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize I was doing this thing that bothered you. I will try my best to not do that anymore. I'm sorry. Can you imagine? So if you have a narcissist in your life, can you imagine? This is why it's funny, because they're not normal. Can you imagine trying to sit down with a narcissist and tell them that you have a problem with them? You know exactly how that would go. You know exactly how it would go. Oh, they can play the part sitting in the therapist office, but when you're alone with them and there are no witnesses, you know what they're going to do. If you try to tell them, like you try to give them some sort of thing that they're going to take as a criticism, you know exactly how they're going to react. They're not going to want to hear it. They are going to have an adult temper tantrum. Like I say, it's like dealing with a spoiled 8-year-old. They are going to have a little meltdown and get very angry, and more than likely they're going to deflect onto you. Oh, what about you? What about you? What about? You're not perfect. You do a lot of things that bother me, and they'll bring up something you said 6 months ago or a year ago, because they don't forget. What about that time you said this? What about that time you said that? And they will deflect, and they will make you forget, and they'll make you regret even bringing it up. But they're trying to get you to get off that subject. They're trying to change the subject. And that's one of the tips that I'm going to give you in a minute. Just remember this. Just pay attention to them. If you feel it's safe. If you don't feel it's safe, don't do it. Try bringing up something that they do that you wish they wouldn't. If anything, whatever that thing is, they'll probably do it twice as much after that. They will do it even more often and with more gusto than they did it before. I learned very early with John not to bring up anything he did that bothered me, because he would do it more. Yeah. When we were together, he would complain that I stayed in the shower too long. And I said, look, especially, if I've had a hard day, I kind of like to take a longer shower. So can you just let me enjoy my shower? How dare you? Basically, it really offended him that I said that. Adult temper tantrum. So after that, when he decided I had been in the shower long enough, he would just reach in and turn the water off and walk out and say, time to get out. He would give me about 8 minutes. You've had long enough, get out. And he would just turn the water off. You better not turn it back on. You better not. So, yeah, but if you feel you can safely bring up something with them that bothers you, watch how quickly they try to get you off that subject and they turn it into an attack on you. And it will be an attack on you. It will be something, and it could be something completely unrelated, but they'll bring it up like it's related, but it's really not. Like if you said, I wish you would let me take a shower. Like, I'm not in there that long. But he said, you stay in there too long. You need to get out. You've been in there 10 minutes. You need to get out. You're running out. You're going to run up the water bill and that heat pump, the water heater is running, and you're costing a lot of money, even though I was the one paying the bills because he quit his job. You're like, get out. You've been in there long enough. He was very controlling. Very, very controlling. In weird ways sometimes. Very weird things he had to have control of, but that's neither here nor there. It's not communication. Communication isn't the problem. The problem is they don't care. It is the lack of empathy. They don't care. You could be the best communicator in the world. They don't care about you. They love you, and I'm borrowing this from Miss Angie. Unfortunately, she passed away. She had a great channel that she talked about narcissism, and she has some great videos on there. I really hated to hear that she passed away, but I'm gonna borrow a line from her because it's perfect. Narcissists love you like they love a cell phone. When you first get a new cell phone, it has all these features and it's brand new and it's shiny, no cracks, it's beautiful, like, ooh, everything about it is great. Look how fast it is. The battery life is amazing. They love everything about you to start off. They do. You're the best thing that ever happened to them. Oh, you're my soulmate. I wish we had met sooner. This is the most amazing relationship ever. And you feel like it too. They will put you on a pedestal and you will feel like it's the best thing that ever happened to you. But over time, that cell phone maybe gets a little crack in the screen. Maybe it's not so fast anymore. Battery life's not what it was. Newer models come out that may have better features and they're much more appealing. So now they're looking at you like, yeah, I don't know about that. And when they get a shiny new cell phone, they're going to toss you aside. They're not going to give you another thought. They love you like a cell phone. That's a hit to your ego. It was a hit to mine to realize John didn't love me. He loved what I could do for him. I gave him the appearance of a stable home life that helped him in some custody stuff. He liked the fact that when he quit his job, yes, I complained, but I kept all the bills paid. He liked what I could do for him. It's very transactional. It is not unconditional. It's very conditional love that they feel. I don't know that they're capable of actually loving anyone. They love you like a cell phone. You're great until you're not, and then they just toss you aside and they get a new cell phone, and then they love it and they adore it the way you thought they adored you. They don't love that cell phone either, but that's what I'm saying is they don't deserve everything that you've put into them. They don't deserve it. And you deserve much better than that. You deserve to be treated with decency and respect, just as you would show decency and respect to them or anyone else. You deserve the same. And if you grew up kind of feeling like you didn't deserve anything for any number of reasons, like I kind of felt growing up, I felt like I didn't matter. I felt like I didn't have a voice. I had no self-esteem at all. I had no self-confidence. And I think if you've ever been in that position, you're very attractive to a narcissist because they know they can abuse you. I don't mean physically, because that was his claim to fame. I never hit you. Yeah, you're right. You never hit me. But what you did in some ways was just as bad. You made me feel like nothing. And he would tell me I was nothing. He would say, you're fat, you're ugly, nobody likes you, you have no talent, you have no skills. You have nothing going for you. Your family only puts up with you because they have to. They don't love you. Looking back, I think a lot of that was projection. I think a lot of that was John talking about himself because it really fit his life to a T. He was just telling on himself, but he almost convinced me that all that was true about me. There's still this little part of me that said, we made it before John came along. We'll make it when John is gone. I lived on my own and supported myself just fine. I left home at 17 and have been on my own ever since. You'll get along just fine without him. We don't need him. We don't deserve to live this way. I'm not going to live this way anymore. And I had to kind of reach that point because I didn't know what he would do. But I think I got off track there. But yeah, you don't deserve that. I will say that until the cows come home. You don't deserve it. I don't care if it's a significant other, a friend, a family member. I don't care if it's one of your parents. I don't care if it's one of your kids, your best friend. You do not deserve to be treated like garbage. You do not deserve to be treated like a cell phone. You are worth so much more than that. And I hope that one day you have to really understand your own worth before you can really see it, I think. You're worth a lot more than that. You are. And I think sometimes we feel like we're all alone. You're not. You're not. I'm here, and I'm telling you, you are worth so much more. I just remembered the name of the YouTuber who passed away who made videos about narcissism. Her name was Angie Atkinson, Atkinson, and she has some great videos about narcissism. So, dealing with a narcissist. First thing you have to understand, like I say, is that you don't have to live this way. You do not have to put up with poor treatment from anybody. I don't care if it is family. Now, I know some people kind of feel like, family is everything. Blood is thicker than water. My take on that is, that's great. But if they treat you shamefully and disrespectfully, they don't deserve your undying loyalty. They don't. And you don't have to put up with it. You deserve better. I don't care if it is a family member. I am giving you permission to put your foot down and put up some boundaries with this person. You have a right to be treated with respect just like anybody else. And the one thing narcissists hate is boundaries. They don't like them. And they will never stop pushing that boundary. And I think a lot of times narcissistic parents do this. They try to overstep your boundaries and try to get enmeshed with you and run your life. And, you got to have firm boundaries and you got to mean it. Every time when they push that boundary, you have to push back. And I know that's hard, especially if you've never done it. The more you do it, the easier it gets. Okay, I'm going to tell you my two tips here for dealing with a narcissist. With a third one, kind of. And the third one I'll give you first. Narcissists will never change. I don't care how good you are at communicating, because you are dealing with a person who is not normal, you can't approach them the way you would a normal person. You can't. You just can't. You will keep beating your head against a wall. You have to learn to talk to them and deal with them differently than you do everybody else in your life. All right, tip number 1. Document every exchange. especially like if you're involved in a co-parenting situation, like say it's somebody you have kids with. It can get tricky, I know, especially if your narcissist is one who really enjoys conflict. John loved conflict. Conflict is like his favorite thing in the world. And it was weird because whenever there was conflict and drama, if you watched his face, he would have a look on his face of joy. Like his eyes would light up and he would just get this weird smirk. And he looked happy, like, oh yeah, here we go. All right. He loves it. Don't give it to him. Don't give it to him. Because I reached a point with John where I had to do that. I will not speak to John anymore. Every communication will be by email. Email only. Text in an emergency. And by emergency, I mean you're bleeding to death or headed to the hospital for some other reason. Anything less than that is not an emergency. It has to be life or death. If you have anything to say to me, send me an email. And that right there, that one change, that one little thing, cut the drama by, I'd say, 98% immediately. Because John would try to start conflict whenever we would talk, like whenever we would speak in person or on the phone. He would start something, and usually it would be bringing up something. Because narcissists are really good at studying you. They don't have any empathy, and that's the biggest part. That is one of their biggest problems. They have no empathy. They study you, and they know what your weak spots are, and everybody has at least one. I think everybody has at least one thing. They got at least one button that you can push that will set them off. It could be something they're sensitive about, something from the past that, they don't like to have. They don't want you bringing it up. The narcissist knows what your buttons are. They know. Oh, trust me. And they have stuff in their back pocket that they will pull out if they're trying to get you upset. And see, then they get you to blow up, and then they go, look how unstable this person is. Oh my God, do you see what I have to live with? Look at her, she's screaming. And then everybody feels sorry for the narcissist because they have to deal with a crazy person. But nobody really wants to know what it was that set you off. And if you had to explain it, you probably couldn't. Because if you try to explain what they do to somebody on the outside, it makes no sense. It sounds crazy. It's crazy making is what it is. They're really good at it because they've been doing it all their lives. They've had a lot of practice before they met you, unfortunately. And they're just going to get more practice on you to use on somebody else later once they discard you or once you escape from them. And you really do have to escape. You don't leave, you escape. I escaped, and I'm glad I did. So that's my tip number one for you. I don't care if it's a significant other, your supervisor, your boss, your coworker, neighbor, friend, whatever. Document every single thing with them. Find some way to keep a record of it, because they will go back and rewrite history, and you will look like you're either abusive or crazy or mentally ill or all three. They will find a way to use your words against you. They will twist things around and use it against you. Especially if you're in a custody situation, it can get really ugly really fast. Document everything, because that, and I thought, God, I wish I had done this years ago. Insist. And if they try to call you or speak to you, don't answer the phone, walk away. Absolutely refuse to engage. Do not engage. If you want to, and don't even say, if you want to talk to me, email me, because now you're talking to them. Don't even do that. Stop. Close your mouth. Don't say one word. I have not said even one word to John now in, oh my gosh, 3 or 4 years. I have not said one word, and I will never say another word to that man ever again. I will not speak a word. No. Every conversation, email only. You can set up an email address just to communicate with them, whatever. It's free. You can do that. You don't have to pay, because I know there are services, like if you have, if you share custody with someone, there are services online that you can pay for communicating and setting up appointments and stuff like that. But it's a little pricey, honestly. It's like several $100s a year. We just did email because it's free and we don't have to pay for it. Switching to only email communication pretty much shut all the drama down. There was none. It was blissfully quiet after that. Blissfully quiet. And I just could kick myself, like, why didn't I think of this sooner? So again, communication. Communication is key. Well, you're right. But when you're communicating with a narcissist, you cannot communicate with them the way you do other people. You have to communicate differently. It might help, again, to think of them as an 8-year-old, a spoiled 8-year-old kid. Treat them accordingly. Talk to them accordingly. You will not believe the difference it will make. It will change everything in your relationship with them. Stop trying to appease them when they try to change the subject and you feel like you have to defend yourself. Don't, because that's what they want. They want to turn it around and make it about you. Don't. And that's when gray rock comes in, which I did with John before I even knew it had a name, because by the end of our relationship, I was just so done. I was so tired. I was just tired. I think I was just tired. And I would come home from work and he would be there. The house would be a mess. Dirty dishes everywhere. No food. And as soon as I would come in the door, you're fat. You're ugly. You're a bitch. You're stupid. I hate you. You ruin my life. You treat me like a piece of furniture. And I would just say, yep. Is there anything in the washer? I need to start a load of laundry. Did you hear what I said? Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh, and I'm going to go pick up some food in a little bit too. But if I could start a load of laundry first, that'd be good. So if there's nothing in there, I'm going to go do that. And I just ignored it. Like, I don't care, man. I don't care anymore. Yep, I'm all those bad things. You're right. Anyway, let's get on with our evening. I was just so done. I was so done. So I guess it was kind of a version of gray rock. But there's a little wrinkle, and this is the second thing. I kind of already talked about it, but the second thing I would say is when you're trying to bring up something with a narcissist and they keep deflecting, keep repeating what it is you want to talk about and stop. Like, say they left the car with no gas in it. I dealt with that a couple times. And they had said they were going to go put gas in the car and they didn't. And now you need to borrow the car, but if there's no gas in it, now you have to go put gas in it. And of course, they don't have any money for gas. So you're going to have to pay. So you say to the narcissist, you left the car with no gas in it. Oh, yeah? Well, what about that time back in 2001 when you called me ugly? You left the car with no gas in it. And just stop. There's a period. Put a period at the end of that. Well, you're ugly. You called me ugly in 2001? You're ugly. You left the car with no gas in it. You don't have to raise your voice. You don't have to scream. You left the car with no gas in it. Well, what do you want me to do, huh? Well, you think I'm stupid? You left the car with no gas in it. Why are you such a bitch? You left the car with no gas in it. Just keep saying it. Just keep saying it. I don't care if you have to say it 1,000 times. Unless you feel like your safety is in jeopardy. Because I'm not trying to put you in any kind of danger. Because if you are dealing with a narcissist, and if you've never had to deal with one, God bless you because you're lucky. These people can be dangerous, and I am not trying to put anyone in a dangerous situation. But practice that. Because they hate being held accountable. And it may help you deal with this person. Now, if this is someone you cannot get away from, you have to use your own best judgment as to how to deal with them. But just understand that you cannot deal with them the way you deal with normal people and expect good results, because you won't get them. I tried for years because I didn't understand narcissism. And And again, I encourage you to look up videos online about narcissism. There are plenty of people out there that talk about it. I've learned a lot just watching, especially Dr. Romney and Jerry Wise. Their videos are fantastic. I've learned so much. And it's encouraging to read the comments section and see how many other people have dealt with the same thing. And so you don't feel quite so alone. Because sometimes, I think we've all, at least at one point in our life or another, we've all kind of felt like we were kind of navigating life without any help, and we were just kind of marooned on a desert island somewhere. That's one good thing about the internet, is that you can get on there and find videos about these topics and realize you are not alone. I think there is sort of an epidemic of narcissism. I think it's definitely gotten worse in the last couple of generations. I don't know why. It's probably not just for one reason. I imagine there are a lot of reasons for it. I think the internet has made it worse. We live in an instant world where we expect everything instantly. We don't like to wait. People have no patience, and people do feel very entitled. And with narcissism, you see lack of empathy, sense of entitlement. Those two things there, the lack of empathy and the sense of entitlement, are the biggest problems you're going to run into with narcissists, because it just it just poisons everything else. It seeps into everything else when it comes to this person. And they will never be normal. They will never be normal because they are missing something, that core wound that they carry with them, that false sense of self that they have. I don't think it can be fixed. So they put on their mask, their fake self when they go out in public. But when you're alone with them, you know who they really are. You may be the only one who does. And you know what they're capable of. And I'm here to tell you, if you could do it safely, it's okay to get away. It's okay to walk away from narcissists, toxic people. You were not put on this earth to be miserable so they could be happy for a minute, which is all it is. Your misery is not fixing anything. Your life being wasted is not going to change anything. It will all be for nothing. It will all be for nothing. And you deserve so much more than that. You deserve so much better than that. Whether it's a significant other or a parent, coworker, whoever it is, you deserve better. So, the two little things I wanted to pass along to you. I know they sound simple. I know they do. Dealing with a narcissist will never be like dealing with a regular person. You cannot use the techniques that most therapists will tell you to use because they're not going to work. They will not work with a narcissist. Document everything. Whether you write it down, your communication, keep the face-to-face verbal communication to a minimum. And even if you have to do it, I would keep a notebook or something, and I would write everything down. I said this, we discussed this, they said this, on this date, at this time. I would keep track of it. You may never need it, but you might. Because they will go back and rewrite history to benefit them in some way. And you will be the villain. You will be the villain in their story. If you're not now, you will be one day. When they're looking for a new victim, some more narcissistic supply, you will be the victim. You will be the person that I'm sure they probably have somebody from their past that they're constantly complaining about. This person ruined their life. This person was so horrible. That's going to be you one day. You will be the villain one day to someone else. They will use you to get someone else to feel sorry for them. So, you deserve better. I don't know. I just know that you deserve better. Let them go on because they're going to be miserable. I think narcissists deep down are truly miserable people. They can be pretty good at hiding it most of the time, but if you spend any time at all around them, you will see hints of that. You'll see hints of that misery. You'll hear it in their voice. You'll They may just say it. They're miserable people. And I feel bad for them to a point. But once they start ruining other people's lives, I don't feel bad for them anymore. No, I just want to stay away from them. I want to stay far, far away from them. And life, listen, I promise you, you get away from them, life instantly gets better. It may be hard. My life was hard. For a long time, it was hard. A long time. But it got better. And I'm so grateful every day that John, I don't have to wake up and look at John. I don't have to talk to him. I don't have to do anything with him at all. And I am so grateful, and I will never stop being grateful. And I don't want to see you or anybody else deal with what I had to deal with. Document everything. Don't try to talk to them like a normal person, because they're not. And say what you mean and stop. Don't defend yourself. Don't fall into the deflection. Don't fall into the what about. Say what you mean, whatever point you're trying to bring up, and stop until they answer your question. Do not talk about anything else. And that's kind of like setting boundaries, I guess. But it's hard. I know it's hard to be firm with them. It can be scary. And again, if you feel like your life is in danger, don't do it. I don't want you to do anything that could get you hurt or worse. But again, I'm really glad that there's so much information out there about narcissism now. It's great, because I can't imagine the millions of people who have lived in misery for God knows how long with these people not having any idea what to do or how to deal with it. So my hope to you, as I wrap it up, I hope that something from what I said will help you. You didn't do anything to deserve this. You didn't. Chances are you're a very empathetic person. You're a very caring person. You genuinely care about other people. You genuinely want to help this person or get along with this person. You meant well. I know you did. I know. I thought, if I just tried a little harder, danced a little faster, did a little more, tiptoed a little softer on those eggshells, I could get back to the relationship we had initially. You'll never get back there, because that was fake. That was all fake. You were the new cell phone. And they liked the shiny new cell phone. But nobody stays the new cell phone forever. And eventually they realize you're a human being with flaws and wants and needs of your own, which, by the way, they don't like. They don't like for you to have wants and needs of your own. They don't. That doesn't compute. Why would you? They have no empathy. Why would you want or need anything other than what I want and need? You're like an object to them. You're like an instrument, a tool. That's all you are. They don't look at you like a person. So you were not put on this earth to make them happy. And I know you're a genuine, caring person. And you can go on and have a good, happy life. And you can help people that can actually be helped. And I want you to devote your energy to that, not to this black hole, this pit of a human being that nothing good is going to come from. I just hate to see you do that. I don't want you to do that if you can avoid it. I want you to go on and be happy and be with other people who make you happy, like genuinely happy. Not just every now and then, oh, we had a good day. It's not all bad. Don't fall into that trap either. Oh, it's not all bad with this person. We had a good day a week ago. That one afternoon was nice. Yeah, and he laughed at my joke a month ago. You're just existing with a person like that. If you have to hold on to stuff like that, you're just existing, and you deserve. I don't want you to just exist. I want you to have a good life. So in closing, narcissists are everywhere, and you may not recognize them at first. I didn't. But just because you didn't see it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. It doesn't mean that you're stupid or crazy. No. You're somebody that you're just a normal, caring person that unfortunately got targeted by one. You deserve better. And I hope one day you can get there. Because life does get better when you get away from them. I promise it does. You can go on and live your life and enjoy it. You can actually enjoy your life, and I hope one day you do. But thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed my little talk today, and I hope that things get better for you. Thank you so much for being here.